Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers a question: why don't dragons just wear scarves, like of the color of their house? Solves a lot of problems. Anyway, subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we are reviewing Season 2, Episode 1, A Son for a Son. House of the Dragon. That's right. It's back, baby. It's back. And talk about coming in swinging. Sweet fucking hell. It was great. All right, so the first season jumped time 3 different times. And the very end of the first season is basically the setup of this war between the High Towers and the Targaryens. And that's really all this whole situation is. The Dance of the Dragons. It's just a war between two houses trying to claim the throne. One of them is justified and the other is a bitch. I'm going to let you decide which is which. In either case, my initial thoughts of this were, hey, we're back. This is great. This is going to be fun. And then the episode just sort of went along, and it's really just sort of narrative, story-driven, circumstantial stuff. And you're like, okay, well, I saw that coming, and that's nothing new, and that's really great. And then at the very end, I was just like, oh no, is this the time they do that? Oh my gosh, they're actually going to do it? Holy shit, it's going to happen. Oh, it happened. So, yeah, a lot of cringe stuff at the very tail end of this. And up until that point, it was coupled with a lot of interesting stuff. So we're going to talk about it all here. So this is, of course, a series created by Ryan Condal. This initial episode was written by him, and it was directed by Alan Taylor. Of course, it aired yesterday, June 16. So the setup here is that Rhaenyra is mourning the loss of her son, which was the climax of season 1. You remember that he went to try to get another house to come to their side, and he was met by douchebag Aemond. And if we're just going to be fair, Vhagar just did what Vhagar does best. And that is, if you're going to blow your stupid fire in my face, I'm going to bite you in half. You can't blame a dragon for being a dragon. You can't. And you can't expect children to be able to control dragons. I don't care if you're a Targaryen or not. They're dragons. Come on. And that's, I think, what is so wonderfully being set up, and not just this episode, but all the suggestions for this season to come, because this is very much a war of the dragons. Now, of course, the Targaryens, they claim to be dragons and stuff, but the reality is these mythical beasts are actual real creatures. And while they can be tamed and they can be sort of directed, they are still independent thinking beings. And Vhagar is the oldest and baddest of them all. And so there's no possible universe which this kid, Aemond, without one eye, that has nothing to do with it, but still, I just got to throw a little slide in because I hate the kid. I actually think the actor's great. And I think the role is great. They want us to hate him. And they're doing a great job, and I do. So there's no way he's going to be able to control Vhagar. You just can't do it. The only person that could have would have been King Jaehaerys, and he's dead. So we're going to see dragons go wild. I think that's exactly what it's going to be. There's going to be like some gonzo filmmaking of just people holding cameras in the sky, and the dragons are just going to be going nuts. And the writers are going to be like, no, don't do that. Oh, shit. And just trying to deal with the fallout. Coupled with the machinations of the individual, family dynamics between the High Towers and the Targaryens. And of course, the Valyrians are going to be playing pretty heavily in there. They're suggested that they're dealing with the fleet and stopping ships and stuff in the south. But we really didn't get to see him in this episode, which is fine. We didn't need to. I loved this setup, and I thought it was brilliant. All right, so Chris, how you doing, man? You haven't watched it yet? Get out of here, man. Seriously, go watch this. Don't let me spoil it for you. Unless you read the books, then it doesn't matter. Just hang out. We'll chat. The music is by Raman Djawadi. And I have to be honest, the intro to this one, I don't get the tapestry. I just don't understand the tapestry thing. I've never been a big fan of needlework in general. I don't know why. Why not just keep the same intro that you did before with the blood running through the different families? Like, why not do that? Why would you switch it up on season 2? It makes no sense. The strength of the Game of Thrones intro is that it's the whole season of every season. Like, you always get the same intro. You get new locations with that little cool 3D map thing that they had going on. But other than that, it was the exact same formatted intro. Now we're getting like weird tapestry stuff. I just don't. I think what they're trying to do is tie it into Helena because she's really into crafting stuff. And she had this great line about being afraid of the rats, worried about the rats. And of course, that's paid off at the very end of this when the rat hunters come after her son. But she's like, if there was anything close to a witch in this show, she would be it, which is why I side for her. Like, she is a queen. No one pays attention to her. They think she's nutso and crazy, but she's literally telling everyone what is going to happen next, and no one pays attention. It drives me insane because she's arguably the smartest one of them all. If she had the compassion and cognitive ability of Alicent Hightower without the drive to put her son on the throne that Alicent Hightower has a false belief of, then Helena would be the perfect queen to rule. Because not only does she see things to come, she prophesies. She's a straight up witch. She's just a good human being trying her best to live her best life, and no one else is paying attention to her. And they actively sort of like denigrate her and shut her down and keep her out of the stuff, out of the decisions and the everything. And there's no reason why. I don't know. I like witches. Did the audio? Oh, okay. All right. Audiobooks. I tried to listen to the audiobook for this one, and it was rough for me. I couldn't. The Fire and Blood. It was rough. But I did the audiobooks for all the other Game of Thrones, so I might as well just dig in and just do it. But what are you gonna do? All right, so we start with the pain of losing a child. I cannot imagine what this feels like. I don't ever want to know what this feels like. I can imagine it's horrible. I imagine it would devastate me to no end, and I don't know if I could ever come back from it. And so I don't disparage Rhaenyra from having to find some sort of catharsis. It's hard to believe someone is truly dead until you see their body. Otherwise, there could still be hope that they're alive. You know, they may not be in one piece. They may be hurting and waiting for someone to find them, but they could be alive until you see that corpse. So I totally get that she has to go through this process. Fuck the Seven Kingdoms. Fuck everything. Fuck this war. Just find your kid. And as soon as you can get that closure, then it's time to refocus and deal with the world. But right now, the pain, it has to be overwhelming. So I think everyone in the universe can understand why she's off doing what she's doing. I mean, Luceri, her son, is dead. Daemon, her husband / uncle, is pretty frustrated with her, though, because he wants to strike back and get revenge. See, this is Daemon's MO. This is him in his heightened state of being. This is exactly where he wants to be at every time. In the center of prime conflict and ready to move and just act. You don't necessarily need a lot of thought if you're Daemon, but you want to act as Daemon. And so that's where he is. That's his character. He wants to get back. He wants to take down Vhagar. And the only way he's going to do it is if he can get at least one other dragon rider on his side and helping him do it. And so when Rhaenys comes back and she brings her dragon back to Dragonstone, he's like, whoa, hey, what's up, yo? So how about we go back to King's Landing and fuck this dude up? And she's like, yeah, I don't think so. I'm not going back to that. And he's like, but I command it. We must go back. And she's like, maybe if you were the king, but you're not, so fuck off. And she just steps away. Which, for the girl boss moment, I really appreciate and I like. Like, I'm personally attracted to strong-headed women, and I like empowered women. I try my best to empower my daughter and everything. So I think that that's a good thing. The frustrating part of that is that they literally could take out Vhagar, the most dangerous dragon, full stop, and that would mean that they would win this war immediately. And so she is tired. She just escaped with her life. She doesn't want to have to fucking deal with this shit anymore. She wants to get a break and talk to her husband, check in with her kids. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. But you could fucking end this right now if you just get your dumb ass back there. Or if when she was in fucking King's Landing at the coronation ceremony of Douchey McDoucerson II, she could have just had him blow fire in his face and killed it and ended the whole thing then. Which begs the question, does she really see herself on Rhaenyra's side? Like, she pretends for now, but I'm not entirely sure. And that's what's so great about this show. At best, you're hoping for temporary allies. At best. But you don't know how long that's going to last. When your welcome is going to be worn and they're going to end up flipping to the other side just just to get you out of their back seat. You know, your backseat driving the whole trip, just like, enough. All right, I'm down with the high towers now. You just fucking get this douchebag out of here. Like, that is what's going to happen. It sucks, but it's inevitable. Yeah, Chris. Yeah. Ugh. I don't want to get into that stuff. All right, so, you know, Rhaenyra finally comes back after finding the wing and cloak of her son, and that's enough for her to find some semblance of closure. And now she's just processing rage. And again, you cannot fault this woman. First of all, she's not the only one that's going to be suffering like this in this episode, but in this war as a whole. So let's not pretend like her pain is special. It is a Tuesday in Game of Thrones. It's like Taco Tuesday. It happens every week. You're used to it. This is coming. Someone else is going to lose a kid. That's just how life works. So of course she goes back to her own little war council and she's like, I want Aemond dead. Her only line in the whole show, like so far, this whole episode, was her just calling out, I want Aemond. Because she wants an eye for an eye. Lex Talionis. Vengeance. I get it. That's the world I live in. I understand where she's coming from. I dig it. Again, he's doing a great job with the character because everyone hates him. It's not entirely his fault, though, because I mentioned it was kind of Vhagar doing it. He didn't want to do it. But now he's owning it, at least, and I like that. He's pretending like it was his plan all along, even though we all know the truth. And so, let's see. I'm looking at my notes here. So the plan to take out Vhagar is moot. Now Daemon has a new plan, and that is to do what his queen wants. And like he's a sword. He needs something to strike. That's his modus operandi. And so if he can't get Vhagar, he's going to get Aemond, the rider of Vhagar. And so he goes and he finds, Mysaria comes back to him saying, hey, I kind of got out and now I'm kind of looking for some protection. He's like, fuck you, bitch, and puts her in prison. And he's like, wait, I can actually use her. And he's like, hey, if I needed to sneak in to King's Landing, do you happen to know anyone that could help me? And she's like, fuck you. And he's like, all right, that's fair. But what if I gave you your freedom? She's like, go on. So she gives him some names that he can get him inside and help him enact this revenge like his queen wants. And again, he just wants some sort of blood on their side. He doesn't even care where it comes from. And so he goes to the guard, finds the guard that hates the high towers. The guard takes him to the rat chaser. Again, call back to Helene at the very beginning saying, I'm afraid of the rats. So the rat chaser takes them through the sewers, and they get in through all the cool it's not Magor tunnels. It's eluding my mind right now. But anyway, it's all the secret passages throughout King's Landing, and they get up into the throne room, and you see this king. And let's talk about the king just for a brief moment here. So King Aegon II, he is not a Joffrey. He is not a Jaehaerys, but he's not that bad. Like he lived his whole life watching his sister be groomed for the throne by his father. And he is the male, which means that he should be the one in the seat for next in line. so clearly he's a little bit pissed. Like, why is it's not his sister? Why is my aunt being groomed when I'm the heir? I'm the one that should be this. And so he, by his own father, he feels kind of like shunned. It's not even aunt; it is his sister because it's like aunt and sister because the Targaryen, they like to keep it close in the family. No, I guess it is just sister because it's his. It would be aunt if it wasn't his same dad. I don't know. I got a 23andMe this shit. It gets kind of crazy. So anyway, he's like, watching Rhaenyra get groomed for the throne, and he's the rightful heir. And so he's just like, well, fuck it. I don't care. So he just sort of lives his own life. And then finally his mom ends up putting him in the throne. He's like, well, I don't know how to do this shit. So he's like, well, I don't want my son to end up in the same place that I am. And so he's bringing his son, Jaehaerys, into the throne room and just sort of, like he wants to do good by the people that are put out, even though that's not good business in the long run, because they have to have the dragons out there flying around protecting the territory, you're going to lose some sheep. You can't reimburse every sheep, man, for what your dragon. It's not like you could pay for your dragon's like dietary habits, right? Why would you want to take that responsibility on when you could just say, fuck it, it's a tax? And so that's what the Hand is telling him to do. And even though he doesn't like it, he has to go along with it because it makes logical sense for a king to do something like that. And the reality is that dragon's there to protect the people from the coming war, which is coming. And so it's kind of like you want to pay the tax, but you just don't want it to take it out of your own mouth. You know what I mean? It's the struggle with taxes no matter where you live. So I like that they presented him as sort of goofy and sort of off kilter, a little bit weird and stuff, but I dig that. But he's not insane and crazy. He's not like fucking out there nutso. And he does really have a good streak running through him. Credit to Alicent and his actual father, Jaehaerys, because he was a good king, And so I really like him as a character. I don't think he's going to be an effective king, obviously, but I do like him. I think he's entertaining to watch. I don't hate him. So he brings his kid into the council, and he almost makes one dude like ride around as his stallion. But look, here's the deal. I don't care what your role is in life. If you have kids that you can play with, and you can just horse around and just sort of like imaginary play with them, do it. 100% do it. Not only are you allowing those kids to realize that you don't have to be serious as an adult, you can have fun, which will then benefit them immensely as an adult when it's their turn to be the adult. But it also allows you an opportunity to just be a kid for a second. I know people like they're all stuffy, like, I don't want to pretend. I don't want other people seeing me as what? Likable? Like you enjoy being around kids? Look, if Whitney Houston taught me anything, it's that I believe these children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. All right. But really though, like that's for real. Kids, they're the promise of a better future, but they're also filled with magic. Like this imagination that is just their view of the world is wonderful. Why wouldn't you want to tap into that and just play for a little while? Like, I don't understand why it's embarrassing. Just get in there. Like, be the horse, whinny, and make little like, like rearing up and stuff. So they have to grab onto you so they don't fall off and like have fun with it. Anyway, it never comes to pass. But the promise of it got me excited for a second. I was just like, oh, we're going to see someone like he's going to be degraded because he's a douchebag. But if it was any other parent I've ever met in my life, or most of the friends I know, they would be totally in for it. Like, yeah, I'll be the horse. Come on, get on. Let's have some fun. But that's not. I don't live Game of Thrones. What do I think this show and Game of Thrones consistently are able to find good actors? So many shows struggle. I don't think it's the actors are clearly good. But again, I think it's writing. I think that's where it comes into play. Like actors will perform what you give them to perform. They may try to make it their own, and some actors can, depending on the director and the producers, on how much leeway they want you to sort of veer from the script. But I think it's writing and definitely direction. And I think that's why this works so well. And you can see, like at the last DB Weiss, at the end of the last Game of Thrones seasons, like 2 seasons, they shit the bed. because they didn't have the writing, because the story wasn't there for George R. R. Martin. They just ended up writing it themselves. And they didn't know how to really direct the actors because they were making up their own shit. And so they didn't have like a legacy to hold on to in order to direct. They were just directing their own shit, and they clearly couldn't do it right. And so they shit the bed of the last seasons of that wonderful series. And that's why I think that this is working so well, is because it's already been written. The history exists. So Ryan Condal is just doing his job and interpreting George R. R. Martin's work and then making it work with the actors. And again, the actors are great. And so I don't want to shortcut them because they're doing a wonderful job. But I think that's the biggest difference, is that the story's solid, it's logical, the actors are doing their job, and the directors know what they're doing. They're not first time or second time directors just wanting to make their mark. And they're not trying to sell a message either. They're just telling a story. That's all we ever want, no matter who you are. At least I would like to think so. So anyway, so the king... I think is interesting. He's trying to bring his son in there, which of course, because he's putting so much focus and attention on his son, that has to be the one that goes away in the end. So it's devastating when that shit happens. But Daemon does hire the guys to go take out Aemond, and they can't find Aemond. We have this really interesting moment where Aemond and Kristen Cole are like sort of scheming, and then the Hand comes in, Hightower comes in, and he's like, well, I hope you guys aren't doing what it looks like you're doing, because that's going to fuck our plans. So how about you just sit tight, you'll get your vengeance, but simmer down, all right? Just simmer down. And I don't think there's going to be much simmering down after this episode. I think they turned the gas on high. Someone lit a cigarette and threw it in the kitchen, and it's on. It is 100% on from here on out. So I really like how Alicent is sort of like having an affair with Crispin Glover, Kristen Cole, which is just mirroring Rhaenyra. Like her legacy, she's even in her same room. Her legacy is she's sexually awakened by this guy, and then she has to, sort of turn her back on him. And he gets butthurt and turns to Alicent Hightower, and now they're having this sort of sexual awakening moment. Because Alicent Hightower, she's lived her whole life serving her family, and then serving her king, and then literally serving her king by bringing forth heirs. She's doing everything her whole life just to benefit King Jaehaerys and her family, the Hightowers. And this is her moment. She no longer has the power that she had last season because her son's on the throne. She's not. And so she doesn't have the influence that she used to have, so she might as well take a little bit for herself. And if that means she gets her little sexual escapades with Kristen Cole, then awesome. You do you, boo. Like, I'm not going to hate on that. You get the pleasure you can in life while you have the opportunity to get it. I'm here for it. It's a little gross that you got some hand-me-downs, like emotionally damaged hand-me-downs, like clearly emotionally fucked up. And it was funny because listening to like the showrunners talk about Cole, like he's the most damaged person of all of them. And if it wasn't for him fucking Alicent, he would have been on duty to protect the son, Jaehaerys, which gets murdered. So that affair is going to be a huge turning point for the show moving forward, because it shows you that Alicent isn't thinking about the family. She's not thinking about the throne. She's thinking about her bean, and she wants to DJ that shit until she's having a good day. And she wants Crispin Cole to do it. I'm just going to call him Crispin Glover from now on. She wants him to do it for her because she has no one else, literally no one else in her life that can just be there purely for pleasure, and that's it. And so even though she's trying to tamp it down, she's trying to close it, we saw that ultimately when Helena came running in there with her daughter, she was fucking. It was on. So it's not secret anymore. And I don't think Helena is going to be keeping it secret. And even if she could, it's out of the bag now. Cole wasn't on duty. He was underneath Alicent. So, I would love to see Crispin Glover in this show. I personally love him as an actor. I think he's great. Especially with the rats. He did a show named Wilbur, a horror film named Wilbur, where he controlled rats. It was awesome. I mean, it was a B horror film, but, you know, it was awesome. One of his best roles, not the best, is We've Always Lived in This Castle. So good. So great story. Amazing story, but the movie, I really enjoyed it. It was a little off, a little different, but it was great. Anyway, back to this. So, I can't wait to see the fallout between Alicent Cole and her son and daughter and their now dead son. That, let's be fair, the king was really trying to groom him, even though he's still a little kid and stuff. But again, here's the deal. You can't lose a child and not come away without scars. You're going to be fucked. And this king is already kind of off the fucking deep end. And so I think we're going to see some shit going down. Inter-family turmoil and strike back. This is Empire Strike Back territory here. So the High Towers are going to be coming at the Targaryens again hard for that kill. When I read that in the illustrated volume that I reviewed on this channel, which is a great collection, talking about all the history, it was just an illustrated version of the Fire and Blood novel. I was stunned. Like, you're going to murder a kid? Like, I was pissed when we saw Stark killed in season 1 of Game of Thrones, episode 1, right? That hurt. I just love Sean Bean anyway. But, like, season 2, episode 1, you kill a kid? A kid? I mean, jeez, that's brutal. I'll tell you what bothered me more than the murdering of the kid that we didn't see, but we did hear, if your volume was turned up, heard a lot of tough sounds. The rat chaser kicked the dog. Why? Why would you do that to a dog? What did the dog do to you? It served you its whole life. You're going to kick it? I wanted to kick the shit out of dude just for kicking that stupid dog. Like, what's wrong with you, you bitch? You don't go around kicking dogs, fucker. Unless the dog's attacking you, then kick the shit out of it. But unprovoked? No, not cool, man. And pretty much in a nutshell, that was kind of the episode. It was Rhaenyra coming to terms with the death of her son, finding all she needed to find some semblance of closure, and then demanding Lex Talionis, eye for an eye. And then Daemon trying his best to meet her out, the eye for an eye. But again, the people he hired, it's not like they were trusted people. It's not like they're the best assassins. One was a rat catcher and then one was a disgruntled guard. And so, rather than finding Aemond, they're like, hey, a son's a son. What are you going to do? You know, just fucking kill the thing. I never understood the moment, though, when they were standing next to the twins there. And they're looking at the mother, Helena. And they're like, which is the boy? Tell me the truth or I'll slit your throat. And the dude was like, just look. Look at the kid's pants. See if they have a dingle-dangle or not. Like, that's it. And they just dropped that story beat. They're like, no, tell us. And then, is it true? I don't know if it's true. How would we know that it's true? They're babies. Just look real quick. You got to change their diaper at some point anyway. So just fucking peel it back. Take a look. If there's a dingle-dangle, you know you got the guy. If there's not, then you know you don't. It's not a big deal. It's not, you don't do anything weird. You're just checking. That's it. And if the whole plan is to murder them afterward, then it really doesn't matter. It was such a weird story beat for them to be weird about. Like, you're about to murder this kid, and you're not going to check if it's a boy or yourself? Like, that's over the line? I don't want to look down his pants before I murder him. It made no sense to me. I was just, like, screaming at the TV. Just fucking check. It's not there's nothing sexual about it. It's like checking if a dog or a cat is a male or female. That's the same goddamn thing. It's so weird. I just didn't understand it at all. It was so ridiculous. I'm excited to see where Daemon goes with this fuck up. How he breaks the news to Rhaenyra and how Rhaenyra deals with it. And I want to know what the hell's going down at the Gullet, because the Valyrians are like, they have a huge blockade down there in the southern Westeros. I want to know what's going on with the Valyrians. They've lost people too recently in last season. So like where are their heads at? We saw a bunch of them, a bunch of the females up at Dragonstone, but we didn't actually like see the father. And we saw Rhaenys come back, so the mother's there. The father's off with the sea. So I think next episode is going to be centered, if not at least half of the episode on Corlys Velaryon, then a quarter of it, because we have to know what the hell they're doing, because it's important to the story. The reality is King's Landing and the High Towers, if they can't get ships to dock into the capital, King's Landing, they can't get reinforcements. So they have to use their dragons to go castle to castle, family to family, and convince them to join their banner and then march against their enemies. Now, that's easy when you have a dragon, but a couple weeks, a couple months into the campaign, and the other side has dragons, you might just decide to turn tail or turn against the people that are forcing you to work for them. So things are going to get nasty. And again, they're calling the Seven Kingdoms, but Dorne, they haven't been brought in yet. They're refusing to be a part of this whole nonsense, the kingdom, as it were. And so it's not going to be until I think it's another 2 generations of Targaryen kings before the Dornish are brought into the realms officially. But there's some shit that goes down before that in that war. So we not only see the Dance of the Dragons, but we see it inter-kingdom issues as well. And I don't want to leave before I start without talking about the Starks. My heart goes out to the Starks. I dig the Starks. I love me some Starks. And knowing the backstory of the North and what, Bran the Builder and what the Starks have always done in not only raising the wall, but also manning it and making sure that it's, the South is safe. I'm interested to see how that plays into it. Like, we've already seen the prophecy, which the Game of Thrones series is all about the final realization of, through Jaehaerys, which is the source of all the misunderstanding of who should take the throne next by Alicent on his deathbed, on Jaehaerys' deathbed last season. Like, that whole story is the core to what's happening right now. And at the very beginning of A Game of Thrones, we saw the kids being told a story about the last winter. These kids are spoiled because they're children of summer, but winter is coming. This whole idea, are we going to get a taste of that? Is there ever a moment in this storyline where the whites from the North ever break down into the South? I don't think they do, but I like the impending doom that is ever present. And I love seeing the wall again. I thought that was great. I almost kind of wish they just would have stayed in like Stark's castle and stuff rather than going up to the wall. But you have to have that sort of callback to remember, like, oh yeah, this is the same world, and hey, it looks the same. It's all snow, I guess. The new Stark guy, I'm down. I think he's cool. I dig it. The great thing about the Starks is they're all about honor and duty. I dig that. I think that's really, really great. I don't think it's practical in the Game of Thrones world, arguably not in ours either, but I like the concept of it. So when I see a Stark doing what Starks do, I'm just like, I see you, brother. I see you. I couldn't do it, but I see you. Yeah, so, I mean, that was the episode. My favorite parts of this episode had to be that brutal scene of the baby Jaehaerys dying, and then remembering the line from Helena about the rats. I was just like, oh, callback. In the worst way. That was the worst callback ever. My least favorite moment was that I want to see Daemon unleashed. One of the greatest episodes of the first season was seeing him stand off against that pirate guy. I can't remember his name now. It was like a crab dude. But like, that was awesome. Him just standing there with his Valyrian steel in his hand. Just like, come on. Bring it, bro. Oh, that was so badass. I loved it so much. What you loved about the Starks is they were mostly honorable, but still flawed in very realistic ways. Yeah, I mean, they were very blinded by their honor. And that was the downfall at the Red Wedding with the, I can't remember his name now. It's been so long. Stark's son, his oldest son, when he ended up being murdered, and the wife. I do wish that the series would have followed the books a little bit more, because I really love what happens to the mom and what she becomes. I think that's just, I would love to see it on screen. We never will now, but I would have loved to see that. And I really want George R. R. Martin to finish those goddamn books so I can find out what his version of the ending is. I really want to know, because I loved what he was doing. I 100% loved it. It was great. So anyway, I'm loving this more, to be quite honest. There's something about seeing dragons on camera that excite me and make me really angry that there's not other dragon properties being developed, like Dragonlance. It's the perfect fictional story to make into a Game of Thrones style war epic that, if done with HBO in this fashion, would be amazing. It would be amazing. Everyone would love it. It's got something for everyone in that story, so I just wish they would fucking do it. Apparently people just hate money, because it would really be a fucking blockbuster. That being said, this is brilliant. I can't wait to see what happens next. Again, with Game of Thrones, you know you're going to get something good. With HBO, almost every goddamn time you know you're going to get something good. And with George R. R. Martin, you know you're going to get something good. So if you're not watching this show already, go binge season 1. You're not going to regret it. Then join us for season 2 for these weekly reviews as the episode drops. I'm going to be doing them Monday nights, just like tonight, right after the episode, the preceding Sunday. So tune in. Let me know what you think, and let's have some fun talking a little bit of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Let me know what you think about this episode in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Even if you disagree with me, I don't mind different opinions. I actually think it makes us better humans when we can accept that we don't have the sole perspective that dominates reality. My old drill sergeant used to say that perception was reality was 9/10 perception. Which, yeah, you've got your grounded facts like science, but everything else is kind of up for interpretation. And I like that about life. So share your thoughts. And let's do it, babe. I don't know why I just called you babe, but you're now a babe. All right. Thank you for tuning in. As always, like it or not, evil spelled backwards is live. So get your tookuses out there and be evil. But don't kill babies or kick dogs. I mean, seriously. It's got to be a line.